All right, database concepts. So first we have show understanding of the limitation of using a file-based approach for the storage and retrieval of data. This is pure understanding, theoretical understanding. The limitation of a file-based approach. A file is a collection of items of data. It can be structured as a collection of records where each record is made up of fields containing data about the same thing. That same thing is entity. Individual elements of data can be called data items. When a program is used for data processing, the organization of any records used depends on how the program is written. Records can be fixed or variable in length, and each record may also contain information about its structure. For example, the number of fields or a length of the record. If these records are to be processed by another program, uh, that program must be written to use the exact same record structure. If the structure is changed by one program, the other program must be rewritten as well. This can cause problem if updating programs is not carefully managed. For example, a business keeps separate payroll files and sales files. Each file is used by a different application. So let's say we have a payroll program that has record description, validation rules in it, and processing code. And it is saved in a disk. The record structure is let's say first name, second name, address, phone number, and staff number. Now, let's say there is another program, sales program. Again, it has got record description, validation rules, and processing code. It is also saved over the disk. And the record structure is for this program, sales, name, staff ID, sales target, and actual sold. Now, several problems have occurred using this file-based approach. All right, this is no database structure. This is just a simple file approach. The name of a member of a staff and their staff numbers are stored twice, here separately and here separate. The way the staff name is stored is different in both of the programs. Here we have broken it down into two, first name and last name, and in this program it is just the name. If the staff number was changed by the payroll program here, staff ID, and not by the sales program over here, these fields may contain different values for the same member of staff. The fields in the two files are also in different order. Here we have got name, address, phone, and here and then staff ID at the end. Over here, staff ID is at the second position. The staff ID is at the fifth in the payroll and the second in the sales. All right. A file-based approach is limited because storage space is wasted when the data items are duplicated by the separate applications and some data is redundant. Separate application means there's a separate program written for payroll, separate program for sales program. They are using their respective data files which are not from the database. So they may contain the same data but in different way, different order. So let's say these are two different departments of a company, payroll and sales, and they are maintaining their own data rather than company has a database, centralized database. They are maintaining their own data. The data can be altered by one department with one application and not by the other. So data becomes inconsistent. In first case, when the storage space is wasted, when the data are duplicated by the separate applications, then it is called redundant. Means data is being saved at different places in different style, and sometimes one of the file in one of the department is updated, the other file in other department is not updated, so that is called inconsistency. So data duplication leads to redundancy. Flat file approach limitations, redundancy. The second one is inconsistency. The third one is if the inquiries are made, like we do run SQL commands over the database. In flat files, these are inquiries. Every inquiry requires to be programmed separately. Inquiries available can be dependent on the structure of the data and the software used so that data is not independent. Means every inquiry requires a separate module of the program written for that inquiry, and if there is any change in the report requirement, then that inquiry is updated. The software, the module is updated, and not just that. There are more reports demand, there are more inquiries programmed, then there will be the written, then there will be the proliferation of the short programs, and if there is any change, you would have to change it. So, and those cannot be used by other um, programs because the data structure, underlying data structure for the same sort of data for the same company in different departments is different. So that is why data is called dependent. Data is dependent over its program. It cannot be used other than the way the program has managed it. All right. So these were a few of the limitations that we wanted to discuss. Now let's get back to the syllabus and see what it says. Show understanding of the limitation of um, using a file-based approach for the storage and retrieval of the data. Now describe the features of a relational database that address the limitation of file-based approach. So now let's discuss those features of the database that can help us to get rid of this file-based approach. Now, these were limitations. Now the advantage of relational database management system. Relational database management system over a flat file-based approach. Now, what is a database? First of all, we need to understand what is a database. As you might have an idea of the database, but there are a few different definitions of the databases from few different authors and books. So let's just see a couple of those before we go any further. So one of the definitions says that a database is a large collection of data items and links between them. Is structured in a way that it allows to be accessed by a number of different application programs, which is highly unlikely in flat file system. The term database is also used loosely to describe any collection of the data, whereas another definition says an electronic filing cabinet which allows the user to perform various tasks including adding new empty files, inserting data into existing files, retrieving data from existing files, updating data in existing files, and cross-referencing data in files. Cross-referencing means making connections in between the data files so that we could retrieve the data from those. So more straightforwardly, a database is a structured collection of items of the data that can be accessed by different application programs. Data stored in database is structured as collection of records where each record is made up of fields containing data about same thing, entity. A relational database is a database in which the data items are linked by internal pointers called relationships, which are maintained using primary key and foreign keys. Using the same example which we have just discussed, a business keeps a database for payroll and sales data, uses applications in database this way. So let's say what it does, it has a table design in database system. And then there are validation rules, built-in validation rules. And and then users and access rights as well. And then there is data. All of it in a system. And from that system, we write applications. So data is maintained separately in a database. So this is a database system, a relational database management system. Now, these two applications, payroll application program and sales application program, they both are now accessing the data from the database. So data, the same data is now available to payroll as well as it is available to sales application. The problem that occurred using the file-based approach have been solved now. The name of a member of staff and their staff number are only stored once. So any changes made to the data by payroll application will be seen by the sales processing application and vice versa. The fields are the same and in the same order. Now, so the database approach is beneficial because storage space is not wasted as data items are only stored once, meaning a little or no redundancy. So the first benefit is that there is no redundancy. Redundancy means the data is being saved at several spaces. Data altered in one application is available into another, so there is no inconsistency. Inquiries available are not dependent on the structure of the data, so data is now not dependent, but it is independent, and any application can access it. So data is independent. So these are basically the benefits of it. Now, let's see what's further in the syllabus. Now, we have seen describe the features of relational database that address the limitations of the file-based approach. That is now over.